Hello there, and welcome to the Ebon podcast. Today, we're going to be going over our second in a trilogy of film adaptations. We've kind of been through our planets, Tatooine, Manon, the Leviathan, and now we're kind of ready to put all of those pieces together and go over what we think a second film would look like. But before we get into that, there's some important news. So today, we're recording this on the 29th of June, and Wave 2 of the High Republic came out today, Cassia. So we had two books out. So we had Rising Storm by Cavan Scott and Race to Crash Point Tower by Daniel Jose Older. Both of those came out today. Did you pick up either of those?
I was gonna snag the Rising Storm on Audible. I'm just finishing a book, The Trojan War by Barry Strauss. So I'm just trying to be a good person and finish some of the things I'm listening to before I listen to that. But I've listened to both The Light of the Jedi and Into the Dark by Claudia Gray, and I've enjoyed both of those. And the First Time Pod sent me a copy of a High Republic Adventures comic, so I'm really digging the High Republic era, and I would love for it to get some action figures and Funkos. Like, I wonder if they're saving the merch for something special.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're kind of waiting to release all that stuff kind of to tie in when we get this thing kind of wrapped up. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. I picked up Rising Storm today, and I'll have to definitely check out Race to Crash Point Tower. I got the hard copy of the book, and then I have the audiobook on reserve from the library, but it'll probably be a while before I'm able to get to that. So I'll be reading this one. And yeah, read Light of the Jedi and Into the Dark by Claudia Gray. And those were both really excellent. Into the Dark was really fun adventure. It kind of takes place right during the kind of like the immediate aftermath of the, what do they call it? It's the Great Disaster.
Yeah.
And it kind of gets everyone stranded on this remote space station kind of thing. And we get to learn a lot more about our characters and just kind of see how the Jedi are dealing with kind of the aftermath of this, big crazy galactic event that happened.
Yeah. And to my shame, like, Into the Dark was my first Claudia Gray book, but it's not gonna be my last. This story, Into the Dark, wasn't as bombastic or epic as Light of the Jedi, but I appreciated like the smaller scope because it focused more on the characters, and I love character-driven stories, and so it was a fun mystery, just kind of focusing on the Jedi and pilots like traveling through hyperspace and coming across this space station, and I was like, oh man, this would be like a fun, like, I don't know, like video game or like animated series or something. Like there's a whole lot of interesting new lore, like from Legends and new canon lore, and it just kind of like fleshed out the galaxy some more. Like you kind of feel like more of their histories, and I really loved the character Reith Silas and Comac Vitus, so.
Yeah, I really like the way that they're setting up these High Republic stories where you get kind of the big novel that's the big, kind of more sweeping, epic part of what's going on. And then you have these smaller stories like, Into the Dark, or what I'm assuming like Race to Crash Point Tower is going to be, that kind of, focus in a little bit on kind of one small aspect of what's going on. But yeah, I think it's really well done, and I'm excited to get into the second wave here. Yeah.
So in the future, I'm sure we'll keep on reviewing the High Republic, and if you haven't given it a chance, try it out. It's a fun story.
Yeah, absolutely. So, today we're here to, make sort of our pitches for how we think the second installment of a Knights of the Old Republic film trilogy is going to work. So I think we better start with just kind of the, the bullet points or sort of the elevator pitch for this second movie. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump in with mine, and you can tell me what you think. See if you're a movie executive, if you think that this is something you'd want to pick up. But mine, so my elevator pitch. Here we go. So we want to make part two of Knights of the Old Republic trilogy. It's following up the massive hit, top grossing box office film of all time, Knights of the Old Republic Act One. So we're bringing you Knights of the Old Republic Act Two. So we're exploring more of the ancient Jedi and Sith lore. We have encounters with great creatures, exploring new Star Wars planets and species, and we're ending with the greatest plot twist of all the plot twists. This perfect second chapter is going to, shed more light on Knights of the Old Republic, and it's going to set up the thrilling conclusion to this trilogy.
Wow, that's a good one. Yeah.
Thank you.
I really like that. My first draft, I was like, oh, this is horrible. And then when I was kind of like rewriting it, I was like, I really want to embrace, I don't know, kind of the poetic, heritage of like what kind of like Knights of the Old Republic would be, kind of like it's like another age, so it's like, okay, let's embrace the other ageness of this. So here is mine. In the height of the Old Republic, our heroes search the galaxy for the location of the dreadful Starforge. They search deserts and oceans, confront dragons, warriors, and armies before they must come face to face with the truth that will shake the stars.
Oh, I like that. That is much more poetic than mine. Definitely. And it definitely paints a very good picture of what kind of the second act would look like and feel like, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you. So, yeah, let us know what your elevator pitches would be. You can send them to us, and we could read them. So,
yeah, definitely. So I guess we should probably just start laying this movie out. So at the end of our first KOTOR film, we ended on Kashyyyk. It was a high note. We were celebrating. We'd, gotten a couple of pieces of our star map puzzle sorted. But the second movie is going to open, and we are making our way to Tatooine. So, Kashyyyk, what is kind of the plot drivers here for Tatooine? Do you have anything that sets up getting to this first planet? Or what are the, kind of key ingredients of, our time that we spend on Tatooine and in Anchorhead?
So, starting the film, it took me a long time to kind of think about how it should start, and like in our recap of Act One of Knights of the Old Republic, we kind of talked about like the different ways like a title crawl could look like. So I do like the title crawl, kind of keeping it more like a title crawl, not like a narration, but kind of like. Kind of make it more artistic, kind of like inspired by different manuscripts, maybe like Celtic, Japanese manuscripts, kind of like artistic, kind of mix in some constellations, like inspired by Star Wars. And I was like, the second film, if it starts quieter, I think it has more weight in a way, like, so it doesn't need to start with a space battle or anything. I think just like you have the title crawl and then pan down would probably be better, even though I do love it when it pans up, or it could pan to the side, but I think a pan down would be better in this instance. And it's like the Ebon Hawk and like flying past the two suns of Tatooine. I don't think we've ever really, do we ever see spaceships like fly right by suns?
No, not really. Yeah, that would be really cool. In A New Hope, you see, kind of the escape pod going down towards Tatooine. But no, I don't think we ever really see the suns as part of, kind of the approach onto the planet. That would be really cool.
So I was thinking it would at least be a different visual. It's like if we have to do Tatooine again, it's like new visual, and they're literally stars, and they're looking for star maps in the Starforge, and I don't know, like for me, like I think like stars are kind of like the through line of this series, like the Knights of the Old Republic series. So it could be different, and then they land there, kind of just more quiet, kind of like contemplative, like looking at the beauty, stuff like that before like the adventure begins. But so I was thinking Tatooine. If I were to describe it, I would say it's a treasure hunt a la Raiders of the Lost Ark. The journey across the frontier reveals more of our characters' depths.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds, that pretty much kind of sums up what we're doing on Tatooine. Like you, I think that the film's going to end with some sort of like crawl, but I would like to see it kind of in, I don't want to say animated, but maybe sort of, these glyphs and writing kind of appearing on screen versus, just kind of the typical, crawl that we've seen in Star Wars films before, just so it looks a little bit more ancient and just has a little bit of a different feeling. But obviously it's going to be, kind of in the same feeling as the first film, to keep some continuity there. But, kind of sets up the story, kind of gives a little bit of a recap of, what happened in the first film, just to kind of, make sure that everyone's brought up to speed and on the same page. And then, yeah, it's going to open on the Ebon Hawk, and maybe we get a nice exterior shot approaching the planet. And then we're going to see it going down into Tatooine and landing in a place we've not ever seen before. So it's going to be Anchorhead. I think that it's going to, be kind of carved out of stone, a lot of different like sandstone, some different colors to it, kind of, streaks of like pink and purple, like in the stone itself, I think would be really cool. But while we're on Tatooine, we have to find the star map. And while we're there, we're going to, meet up with the Tusken Raiders, do some talking with them. We have a battle with the Krayt Dragon we need to work out. Maybe pick up another few enemies on the way. But to me, the Tatooine section is going to feel a lot. You said Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm going to say Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So it's kind of like I like the comparison to the Last Crusade because he's got his little journal. He's working through kind of these steps that his, father had laid out for him, kind of in this little book. And so it's going to have kind of that same
So
feeling.
Bastila is Indiana Jones because her
Yeah,
father
right.
was literally looking for the star map, I think.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I think we were both kind of on the same page there that we want this to feel, have kind of a playfully serious tone. Is that a good descriptor of Indiana Jones?
Action
just
adventure,
kind of yeah, exactly. Just kind of this fun, but yet, kind of still has, one foot on the serious side of it for sure. And it's, really what it is a big, treasure hunt. So that's what we're there doing. So what about as far as the, character focuses on Tatooine? So, the Ebon Hawk crew, it's pretty big. We're going to have to kind of whittle it down and, kind of focus, a little bit on individual characters here as we move through the film. So on Tatooine, whose time to shine is it here in this place? Who do we get to learn more about? What kind of actions do they take? What are your thoughts on that?
I just wanted to add that my film inspirations for Tatooine, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Casablanca. And I think Casablanca is going to be also an inspiration for Manon as well. So, yeah. But on Tatooine, I think the main character focus is Bastila, because she runs into her family. Well, I guess her mother, and then has to see that her father has passed away and kind of come to terms or not come to terms with that. And then I think getting some Tusken Raider lore after talking to Hooney, I'm if you're gonna do it, you have to do it.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously Revan and Karth a bit. That's who I would say. What about you?
Yeah, I think Bastila is the big one for sure, right? Meeting her mother and kind of setting the tone for how her story is going to play out through this film is really important. I think we're going to get a good opportunity for Revan to kind of find some of his strength, especially towards the end of our time on Tatooine and dealing with the Krayt Dragon. Maybe something that's kind of revealed to him at each of these stops along the way is, some bit of himself that he's kind of rediscovering. So, just his just his strength and power and his kind of attachment to the Force. I think that that's something that's going to crop up from time to time, and I think we get the first kind of glimpse of that here on Tatooine. And then the other one I think that is interesting to me is Canderous. So in the game, Canderous has a side quest on Tatooine where he goes to confront Jaggy, another Mandalorian, and I think that for our movie, I think that that is going to be interesting because we don't really get a good idea of what Canderous is doing with the group, right? He flees Terrace with us, and then he's just kind of along for the ride. So he's been at Dantooine and then at Kashyyyk, but here he has kind of this other conflict to take care of and kind of separates himself from the group. So it leaves us wondering, what role does Canderous have and what part is he going to play? So it's just kind of sets up for, we don't really know, if Canderous is really allied to us or if he was just kind of, using us to get from point A to point B.
Yeah, that is smart. Like, because I think you can maybe have Canderous just be like, okay, I escaped the planet Terrace with these people. I can stick around with them. Mm-hmm. Dantooine, right. Maybe Kashyyyk. Then he's like, but then I think it's it's kind of maybe it's when you graduate, you go to one company and it's do I really want to stay at this company, or do I want to kind of grow more elsewhere? And maybe Canderous, it's he kind of is oh, I don't need to stay here. I'm my own person. And then by the end of kind of Act 2, I think he's kind of grown and kind of discovered more about himself, and he does want to save the crew. So I think it's a little bit like a Han Solo in A New Hope for Canderous, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's always going to kind of be the the unwilling protagonist for the group, kind of, right?
Yeah. So, and I think it's a bit interesting because he's a little bit older, so you would think he'd be a little bit more set in his ways, but but he's still kind of growing and learning. So
yeah. Okay, so that kind of takes care of what we want to see on Tatooine. And as we leave, we've defeated the Krayt Dragon, we've gotten the Krayt Dragon Pearl, and we've gotten our piece of the star map. So it's off to the next destination, which is Manon. Now, Cassia, on the kind of travel in between Tatooine and Manon, are there any kind of story elements you'd like to see, or is this a good time to have Malak kind of sprout up and get a little bit of insight to what he's scheming on up on board his ship? Or what do you think? Is there any sort of activity that needs to happen on our travel time here?
This was actually one thing I was kind of thinking about. I guess maybe because I've been listening to the Trojan War, and they talk about how they have to stop in between where they're going because ships can only go so far, so you kind of have to and also stock and get supplies and rest and get water and all that. And I was maybe to kind of show that it's 4,000 years before the Star Wars saga we are familiar with. I was what if in between going between worlds they have to stop and refuel and get some stuff, and it's kind of a little bit of a I was gonna say world between worlds, but that's kind of a canon lore thing,
Yeah.
But what I mean is not a gas station planet, but maybe there is a gas station planet in Star Wars, who knows? But kind of they have to stop and kind of get a little bit of a feel of a medieval journey, while everyone's maybe on pilgrimages or trading, they kind of have to stop and refuel, and maybe you see Dark Jedi there. kind of spies and stuff, and like you have to kind of be on your guard, like anything can happen in that day and age, you know. So I was kind of
Yeah.
thinking like that would be cool, and like that way you kind of see a little bit more worlds than just Tatooine, Manon, Leviathan. So that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's actually a really good thought because if you've read any of the High Republic, kind of one of the big parts of at least the first wave that we've seen of that is they're just kind of establishing this more streamlined abilities through hyperspace. So presumably, if you go back even further than that, it's going to, even if you can travel at hyperspace, they haven't established these lanes. So maybe it's not, a go from point A to point B. Maybe you have to, kind of make some stops along your way, right? They haven't built the interstate yet, so you're taking the back roads to get there. So yeah, I think that's really a good way to introduce some more kind of dangers and opportunities for our crew here of the Ebon Hawk to meet up with some adversaries and a little bit more action into some of these, especially because Tatooine and Manon are going to be paced a little bit slower, I think. So
Yeah, but I think like Manon, I wasn't expecting this. Like I was thinking like in Act 2, like I'd be more excited about the other locations, but like I think like just kind of doing some of these episodes, I'm like, I think I'm more interested for Manon, like, which is like a world where the war is kind of more hidden beneath the surface. Like, I feel like they kind of pretend it's not a problem, So it's like a world like half Republican, half Sith. But like any day, the Cold War could turn into I don't know, what is the term? Is it like a hot war or is it like a full scale war? Like,
yeah, so yeah, something like that for sure. But yeah, it goes from being like a war of intelligence to a war with more pew pews and things like that.
yeah. And what I like about Manon is like it can mirror the galaxy, like because there's these two armies, Republic and Sith, and like either one of them could dominate, and the characters in our crew, like either one of them could like go bad or stay on the light side, and especially like Revan and Bastila, I think like they're kind of in the balance, so
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, this is so fascinating from a symbolic perspective, so yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is super interesting to have kind of these, two sides, kind of, it's like a simmering pot, right? Tensions are super high, but everyone has to kind of play by the rules of the Selkath because, everyone is there because they need Kolto to, heal up their troops so they can keep waging their wars elsewhere in the galaxy. But yeah, it's just a really interesting location, and everyone's kind of bottled up on this these small kind of places up on top of the surface, right, that are basically just built there for people to live and pick up their Kolto and get back out of there. So it's a very cool location. I think it's going to be super interesting to see on film, and I think just the interactions between the two sides is going to be really fascinating. And like you said, you have Revan, you have Bastila, who are kind of swaying in the balance sort of, and you also get really good story parts with Jolie, who's going to be able to kind of set the tone for the party as we go through here. But there's just a lot of really fun stuff to do on Manon, aside from just get the star map for sure.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by like the dynamics of the city, especially like by the ramifications for the team and the world, like doing the trial. Like, are people willing to like kind of like lie to kind of get what they want? Like, is that the right thing? Like, so much drama to be had on Manon Dramon. I don't know.
Drama.
Trying to
Yeah,
make
there you
that
go.
a thing, but it will not probably never be a thing. But maybe that'll be on the postcard. No, just kidding. It won't. But so my film inspirations are Casablanca and every good Cold War film. We talked about Helen Mirren's filmography, and there's some to choose from there. But like Casablanca, I was like, I think it's a good something good to like kind of have reflected in Tatooine and Manon, because it's just such a good drama. And like if you look at it, it's really just like you look at each character's motivations, and like it's not like some like, it's really simple, you know. It's like, does this guy want to be with this person still? Does this girl want to do like the right thing, or does she want to be with the guy she loves? Like, what will people do for papers, you know, to get out and survive, you know? And so it kind of keeps it real. So those are my film inspirations. What about you?
Yeah, so my film inspiration, and actually Casablanca is a really good one, because you have kind of these, you know, well, in Casablanca you have like the Nazis are coming in, right? So there's this weird kind of tension there. But my film inspiration is Argo. It's kind of for the same reasons, right? You're trying to lay low, trying not to be seen and get caught and get busted with this stuff. You know, and trying to, you know, kind of get into Manon and get out of Manon without causing a real stir, right? You don't want to set off any red flags for Malik and the rest of the Sith. So you're trying to, you know, like I said, kind of get in and get out. And I think that that's the big struggle that you're going to have. You know, we talked about Revan and Bastila, we talked about Jolie there, but I think that Karth too, you know, being the good Republic soldier, like he's going to be itching for a fight, and you know, the rest of the party is going to have to do, you know, kind of their best to keep him in check, you know, keep it cool. Karth, don't lose your head, don't lose your temper. You know, there's bigger things at stake here right now. So
Yeah. I think like keeping the trio involved like throughout the films is critical. And I think Jolie will have a lot to do here on Manon, but definitely Karth as well. Because he has the most connection, like the most personal connection to the Republic. I mean, Basila's been fighting in the war, but like her number one connection is to the Jedi, I would say. And
Yep.
I think like Karth, like his paranoia, like he can sense something's not quite right, you know, and I think he wants to do the right thing, and I think he wants to make sure the Republic wins. So I think there's a lot of fun stuff for Karth's character to do. And then with Revan and Bastila, like they're the Jedi, you know, kind of leading the search for the Star Forge. Well, like the star maps, I guess, leading to the Star Forge. So it'll be fun, I think. So.
Yeah, definitely. And as far as kind of the other characters, obviously you have Jolie there. He's, you know, taking place in this trial or some sort of film adaptation of what this trial is going to be. And I do think that as far as Karth goes, I think from a story perspective, I think that now is probably the best time to have Karth find out about his son, having joined the Sith and his own Korriban. I think that now is a good time for that, and I think that that's kind of another plot point, you know, driver of, you know, telling Karth to play it cool, so to speak, and, you know, keep your head up. We'll get through this. We'll get out of here, and then we'll, you know, take care of your son. You know,
Yeah.
we promise, but you just gotta. For right now, you know, we have to get this thing sorted, and I think it's a good time to see T3 as well, because we haven't seen him really do too much up until this point. Because T3 not that useful on Tatooine, too much sand, you know, gets in his servos there. But I think he's going to play a key part here, because he can kind of sneak around, he can hack into the computer mainframes and get us the information and open all the doors that we need doing.
Yeah. In our postcard we're gonna have available soon, there is kind of a focus on Jolie and T3 interacting, and then Revan and Bastila are in the background, you know, kind of like supposedly focusing on their mission, but so it's a
Yeah.
fun postcard, and I think when I think of like T3 in Knights of the Old Republic, I'm like Manon, like it's a good area. Like it would be fun to kind of like see him do stuff, but I mean in my mind like T3 is like kind of like the R2D2. And like I think like in my mind like he was a Republic Endar Spire like astromech droid and like maybe belonged to like either just the Endar Spire or Bastila and like is kind of just like kind of adding the Star Wars juice to the cocktail, and yeah, so I kind of just see that happening, but I think like maybe like T3 could like maybe kind of help with like labeling the star map and stuff and like kind of keeping the record of like what they're learning. And like I was kind of thinking about it, like maybe it could maybe take some time to process, and it's almost like it looks like the technological version of like having to paint out a map by hand, rather than just like here's some blinking dots, like have fun with it, like. But that's just what I was thinking. So
Right. Like maybe when you get to the star map, T3 has to, have the star map input to him, or he has to download it and then kind of upload it into the Ebon Hawk. So really only T3 and the Ebon Hawk know where we're going.
yeah, they have to keep that firewall up,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that is an interesting point you have with Karth, but I kind of wonder if it's better for him to find out about his son in the next movie, because like kind of looking towards the future, like I think this is where Karth like he's kind of proven right about trust, because a lot of secrets were being kept from him, like the whole crew really.
Yeah.
And I think, like, in the third one, that's when he has to learn how to trust again and to learn that people can become better. And I think if he, like, has to, like, if he has, like, a personal connection, like, in the next movie, to realize, like, people can go to the dark side, but they can kind of become better, I think, like, it would give him something to grapple with on Korriban and something to overcome. And like at the Battle of the Starforge, like in my mind, like this is kind of looking towards the future, but I think like Karth is like gonna have an opportunity to maybe take out Bastila like from the outside of the Starforge. Like he doesn't know she's like been redeemed, maybe she hasn't been redeemed yet, but then I think he's just gonna have to be like, no, because of what I learned, like, with Revan and my son, like, I can trust again. And, like, Revan's going to reach Bastila and it's going to be okay. And the Republic is going to survive. Yeah. Like, I don't have to, like, I don't have to take out Bastila, And I think, like, in Act 1 or Act 2 of Knights of the Old Republic, like, Karth wouldn't have hesitated. But, like, in Act 3, like, he's kind of learned how to trust, again, and build and maintain relationships.
Yeah, so I like what you said there a lot. So and it got my wheels spinning. So what about if we're on Manon and we're getting some information from the Sith? Maybe there's some sort of a document or a screen or something that Bastila is looking at, and she sees Karth's son, his name on the list of these Sith people. And so as an audience, we know, that she saw that and knows, but, Karth is, none the wiser to it until later, and then finds out that, that she knew. So not only was she not telling the, whole truth about Revan, but she was also keeping him, that from him. What do you think about that? Is that too much, or do you still think it would be better for him to find out later? Or?
That might be a little bit much, but maybe if he is going to learn, maybe he could learn it from Saul on the Leviathan. So, yeah.
And then as far as the characters on Manon, the only other kind of note I had here is about Revan and Jolie, and that it's kind of a good teaching opportunity, or maybe not teaching opportunity, but Revan's able to see Jolie in the way that he handles the Sunry murder, trial kind of thing, and see that not everything is as black and white as the Jedi, and that Bastila kind of tell him that it is. So just seeing Jolie kind of in action and making different decisions than like the Jedi Council probably would, or that Bastila might in this same situation. I just think it's a kind of a growth opportunity and kind of a little bit more character development for Revan to, kind of lead him down a little bit of a different path than Bastila's kind of going on right at this exact moment.
Yeah. Because with Jolie, for me, it's just so interesting for him to cross paths with Sunry again, and Sunry like isn't who he used to be or who Jolie thought he was. But I mean, I'll kind of talk about this later, but like Jolie, I think his main goal is to kind of just to mentor Revan and Bastila on their paths, and it's just really interesting.
All right, we made it down to the Kolto mines and found the next piece of the star map. T3 has plugged into the Ebon Hawk, and we're on our way to the next destination, but we are not going to quite make it because we're going to get caught in a tractor beam to the Leviathan. Karth looks out the window and says, "That's the Leviathan. That's Saul's ship. And we better figure out what we have to do here." So, Cassia, what do we have to do here? We're going on to the Leviathan. So, what do you think's happening? Is there anything that happens kind of on the blast off from Manon before we get to the Leviathan, or we just kind of heading straight there? And what's happening when we get there?
So, in my mind, Revan and Bastila, like either on Manon or maybe by the star map kind of room in the Ebon Hawk, like kind of like we're defining or determining their relationship, and then like kind of like Bastila can't admit like Revan was a Sith Lord, and like so they're kind of going through some like relationship drama. So like in my mind, like when you're dealing with like relationship drama, like sometimes it's like you have a friend in school and it's like, we have a really important midterm coming up, and like right. Your friend is like, I need to stress and worry about this relationship. And like sometimes like when you're on the outside of it, you can be like it's going nowhere, so like it's pointless to worry about that, but we have a really important midterm coming up, so like in my mind, like Revan and Bastila, they're not gonna be able to sense, that there's literally a Leviathan coming up on them. They're the right. Jedi on board, and I think the only person who would sense it is Jolie. But I think Jolie knows this is inevitable. And in my mind, like it kind of happens kind of more suddenly, so they don't have time to like have a whole like powwow and be like, okay, this is what's gonna happen, like let's plan this out, and one of us is gonna stay behind. Like I think it's just gonna be like everyone's on alert, and like kind of just like gets captured. But maybe they try to send out a distress signal, and like maybe to like Big Z and Mission, and maybe Canderous just because he's on the Ebon Hawk group chat text, and in my mind, Juhani is Bastila's friend, kind of like her contact on Dantooine, so maybe they send it out there, and maybe also to the Republic and like the Jedi Council, and they see who can respond. Yeah,
I kind of see it a pretty similar way. I think maybe on Manon we had, I don't know if it's like a bounty hunter, but like an informant or something along those lines. We see them kind of call back to Malik and say they got here because Malik knows where they're going, right? Pretty much, or you'd at least have a pretty good idea. So gets tipped off that they were there, so they're just kind of out waiting for them to leave Manon, basically. So as soon as they do, they're getting into this tractor beam, and like you said, I think Bastila and Revan probably not paying that much attention to it. Jolie's like, "Did you guys notice that big ship out there?"
Yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, get kind of captured right away. And as they're getting pulled in, I like that sending out a distress signal to Canderous and Mission and Zalbar, and probably to Juhani or the Jedi Council, something like that. But I think you get kind of the trio and Jolie ending up in like this prison, like the four of them together, and then kind of the trio gets separated out from Jolie, leaving him Jolie kind of alone, and the other three kind of in these other like individual holding cells, like up more near like the bridge of the ship.
Yeah.
And from that point, it's kind of time to do the prison break and figure out how we're going to get out of this situation. So, what do you think about that? So we're on the Leviathan, and some of the parties captured here. What do you think? How is that going to play out?
Yeah. So my film inspiration for this section is definitely Alien. And on the Leviathan, like, the war and everything else is stripped away. Like, the truth can no longer be contained. Revan, ultimately what happens on the Leviathan is Revan learns the truth. So my character focus is here. It's definitely the trio. Malik, kind of having, like, something to do, finally. And then Canderous and Juhani. And in my mind, it's Canderous and Juhani who do the rescuing.
Okay.
And, like, why I have Juhani join now is just, like, so you can kind of, like, have more time for all of the characters. And then Basila's going to be taken. And then, like, Juhani can fill the gap, in the group then, like, to be another Jedi. But, like, in my mind, like, in KOTOR 1 and, like, throughout, like, kind of, like, the interim of KOTOR 2, like, she is in touch, So, yeah.
Yeah, so for my envisioning of the prison break, I think we're going to have the droids do the prison break. Like I said, because Jolie's also been captured. So you have HK, you have T3, and they're out. At this point, Jolie's been separated from the main trio, so they get Jolie out, and then they're on their mission to try to keep things under control. And about that time, Juhani shows up, Mission and Zalbar show up, but I don't think Canderous shows up, at least not right now. And about that time, that's when Malik and a bunch of Sith troopers are arrived, and then the reveal happens. So my film inspiration too, same as yours, it's Alien. So the Leviathan is a gigantic ship, and I think that it's going to be pretty empty, pretty dark, but it has like those big fluorescent lights that kind of come on as you enter a room. So it's kind of creepy and sterile, but really like empty and hollow feeling. So yeah, so definitely some good Alien vibes. And then as we're after kind of this prison break section's happening, and then it's going to turn on to like all the good Star Wars films do, and we get kind of this three front battle. So you have Karth, he's on the bridge, he goes to deal with Saul, confront him. You have Revan, Bastila, and Malik, and then you also have Jolie and Juhani, Mission and Zalbar, and the droids are fighting off kind of these the Sith troopers and patrol droids, stuff like that, like trying to work their way back to the Ebon Hawk so they can be ready to make the escape when the time comes.
Yeah, I do like incorporating Mission and Big Z. Now that you kind of mention it, like they can save the droids, and Canderous and Juhani can save the people, And one thing I was kind of thinking of is, like, if Saul and Darth Malik are, like, in the same room, and, like, Karth handles Saul because he can do that, and then, like, Malik and Revan and Bastila are fighting, Saul will die, and then he kind of listens to him, and then Karth is like, what? Like, and then kind of just like looks at Bastila, and then like Bastila's like, oh great, like yeah, great, like
Right.
and then like kind of the reveal happens, and yeah, just like the ultimate, like everything that could go wrong is going wrong, I think.
Yeah.
And in my mind, like, I don't know if, like, how the Ebon Hawk crew is going to escape on the Ebon Hawk. Like, maybe, like, the Ebon Hawk can, like, kind of go through the ship and escape through the engines. And, like, it kind of turns the ship, like, black, or, like, it kind of burns away the orange and white paint job. And, like, it kind of reveals, like, the black underneath, because it's literally called the Ebon Hawk, you know?
Yep.
And I was like, and then in the third movie, they could have an all new paint job that kind of like reflects like Revan used to be Darth Revan and was black, you know, like kind of like on the dark side, but then he was kind of painted over with a new paint job, like a Jedi false identity, you know, like orange and white. But then in the third one, it's like kind of embrace all three, and it's like black, white, and orange, you know? And in my mind, it's like, that was cool, you know? And like, it would be a fun Lego set, because it's not just like, here's another gray spaceship. Wow. You know, like,
Yeah.
So yeah, like that's my version of how they get out. But like, I think Bastila, it's like, they're almost out, but then like Darth Malak is there, and like, Bastila is literally not in a good place. Like, just like she's dealt with like family attachment issues. She's kind of like in love with like someone who used to be a Sith Lord, could maybe be a Sith Lord again, and then like fighting a war and like being held back by the Jedi Council, you know? So she's not going to be in a good place. So I think she's like, well, Revan knows who he is and what I've kind of kept from him, and so does Karth, and like, I'm just gonna at least do what I can do, and like probably I'll die, but I'll try to save them and do the right thing. And then everyone leaves. I kind of see like once Revan knows who he is, it kind of like is like the end of The Last Jedi, like where the Force bond between like Kylo and Rey doesn't happen anymore. You know, like, so it kind of like, there's going to have to be a reconciliation for the bond to kind of be there anymore. So, like, everyone is kind of gone. Bastila, like, is kind of left with, like, Malak, and then, like, some Dark Jedi come, and Malak says, like, whoever wins the duel, you know, between whichever one of you, like, defeats the rest will be my Sith apprentice, and, then I think, like, Bastila is gonna, like, you know, kind of, like, try to win and become aggressive, and then she's, like, kind of tapping into the dark side, because she's, like, emotionally not in a great place, you know? And in my mind, like, some Jedi did survive, and they were sending a Jedi strike team to be like, oh, we need to save Bastila and Leviathan, but because she's tapping into the dark side, it backfires on the Jedi because they're aligned with the light side, and so their death is kind of on her hands, and she's kind of been tapping into the dark side, and Malak said, like, whoever wins will be my apprentice, and at the end it's like she defeated them, and then it's like, well, maybe Darth Malak, like, this isn't what I would have said word for word, but I'm kind of just paraphrasing, and it's like, you defeated them, you will be my apprentice, you know? And then, like, Bastila's like, what? Like, no. It's like, and, like, he would kind of reveal what happened and, like, what Bastila's done, and it's like, you've done everything the Jedi wanted you to be, like, this is what you've done, you know? Like, you're the perfect Jedi, where did it get you? Are you happy? And then, like, kind of just, like, the realization, and it's like, I will show you more mercy, you know, than the Jedi ever would, you know, which probably is true, because they do a lot of weird stuff on Dantooine, you know, and
True.
And yeah, so I kind of just want to end the film with Bastila embracing the dark side.
Okay. Yeah, I'm into that. I think that the film definitely needs to end with, kind of that concluded. I don't think that that needs to be left hanging out there for, the couple of years until the next film would be coming out. But as far as like the characters on board the Leviathan as we're getting out of there, I think it's going to be an interesting kind of introduction for Jolie to Juhani, and he's going to kind of see her as an opportunity to, kind of have someone else to teach as an apprentice, kind of get a second shot at having an apprentice. So I think that their relationship's going to be fun to kind of see start here and then develop through the third film. I think Karth, when confronting Saul, I think that, Karth's going to be, seeing red, ready for revenge, ready to take Saul out for what he did. But, after spending all of this time with Bastila and Revan and Jolie, he's going to, attempt to take the high road until, Saul kind of forces his hand there in that situation. And I think Canderous, gets back to help out the team, but not straight away. So we think that Canderous has kind of abandoned us. Maybe he's like, as everyone's getting back to the hangar bay where the Ebon Hawk is, maybe he's there, and the everyone's kind of running away from the Sith or these droids or whatever, and then Canderous can just kind of open fire and save the day here at this last second. Say something quippy like Canderous is probably one to do, and then you have the big reveal, right? So Revan and Bastila and Malik, they're on board the Leviathan. So yeah, it's weird. It's like it's kind of like this rescue mission, but it kind of gives everyone a little bit of a part to play, which I think is kind of neat, and this will make for a really neat section of the film.
Yeah. Yeah, so, like, with ending the film, like, the very end, like, Karth is going to be mad and hurt, but he's going to stay on there, I think, just to mostly just make sure that Revan doesn't become Darth Revan again. And, like, he's on the mission to find the Star Forge. Like, that's the only way to win. So I think he's like, I literally don't want to be here, but I literally have to be here. So,
right.
So yeah, like, I think like the Act 3 is going to be a big film for Karth, and I'm kind of excited to get into that, with Revan, like, without the big twist that he's Revan, it's kind of just, like a little bit of a generic space tale,
Yeah.
So this is like a twist, like, a la Vader being Luke's father. Like, without Luke's father being Vader, like, just the third film was like, yeah, we took out another Death Star, the end.
Right.
There's no emotional connection there. Like, so this twist changes the game for the galaxy. Like, he was a Jedi, he was a Sith Lord, now he's a blank slate. So it's an unknown, like, at the end, like, what path he will take. But Bastila, I'm like, dark side. It's interesting. Like, I don't want to see Bastila be tortured for, like, so much of the third one and be like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. It's like, we all know what's going to happen. So,
right.
Just give her yellow eyes. And one thing that I always find interesting, like, kind of like, you can always liken, like, Star Wars to real life, and it's like some people, it's like they have strict parents growing up, or like domineering parents, and then like they're like, oh, my parents, I'm leaving them behind, and now I have a domineering, like, romantic interest, and it's like, okay, like, that's literally the same thing, like, so I think it's kind of like, she's gonna serve Malik like she served the council, like, so she's not free, she's just kind of trading one master for another master, so I see, like, I think she's taking steps, but she's more broken and lonely, I think, so.
Yeah. And as far as ending the film goes, right, so yeah, we have Bastila is lost, she's with Malik still in the Leviathan. Everyone else kind of gets out of there, though, to the Ebon Hawk and off of the ship. Revan's distraught, obviously. He doesn't know what happened, what's going on, who he really is anymore. Karth, is feeling very betrayed, feeling, some a turmoil with what just happened with Saul and how he feels about that. Plus, the fact that Revan is Revan. You have Jolie kind of, trying his best to mend these wounds. You have, kind of the whole rest of the party is back together now, but Mission and Zalbar probably got back super excited to reunite with everyone, and they come back, and it's just the middle of this, terrible situation that they find themselves in, right?
Oh, that would actually be hilarious, because it's like they're on vacation and expecting like everyone to be happy, and it's like, oh no, Basila's gone, but then it's like, what happened here? Like, other than that, and then
right.
It's like, I don't know if you've seen Community in the episode where like Troy comes back with the pizzas and everything's on fire, but I kind of
exactly. Yeah, exactly like that. So everyone's kind of on there, but I do think we get one last little bit of a space battle as we leave the Leviathan. We get some pursuing, Sith ships, so we kind of have to deal with those. So nothing really is put to rest as far as everyone's, kind of feelings and opinions. And then for like the actual ending of the film for me, so this is kind of what I see in my head. So you have like Revan, he's like sitting on a bunk or sitting, on a bench, like, back on board the Ebon Hawk. And it's kind of going back and forth, like the shots. So we're seeing like Revan sitting there stewing, and you have, and then it'll go over to like Bastila, and she's there with Malik, and Malik's talking to her, telling her, about all of the lies that, the Jedi told and all of her teachers told, and it kind of keeps going back and forth, but you just keep hearing Malik's voice, like going over top of this. So like you'll hear like his voice over top of seeing Revan sitting on top of the Ebon Hawk, and then it kind of ends with him saying something along the lines of, "You've taken him before, go take him again." And then we're going to see kind of as we go through like this little montage of the end, we're going to see Bastila walking on board this little ship, is just being like bathed in red light as she's getting on this shuttle going to Lihan. And then you'll see Revan back on board the Ebon Hawk, and he has his mask. Maybe he's just holding it in his hands, or it's over on like this bench, or it's in like a bag of Bastila's stuff, or something like that. And that's kind of where the film ends. Get a big, nice swell in the music and credits.
Yeah, kind of like Attack of the Clones, where like you have Across the Stars playing, and like. Mm-hmm. Before it can, if it's going to go minor or major, it kind of goes like dun 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 dun. Then it's like da 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 da. So yep. I'm like, I'd love that. Like you don't know how it's going to go. So yeah, I like how you describe that. It's very artistic. I get some good visuals and images. Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah.
What about you? Any parting shots for the film, or anything you'd like to add about ending the second in the Knights of the Old Republic trilogy that we're pitching out here today?
I think if it ends with the Ebon Hawk going into light speed, I'm good with that. Like happening after what you described. Mm-hmm. So it's like the journey continues. So those are my. That's my thought. Like, I feel like you articulated it perfectly. And I'm like, yeah, and then it goes into hyperspace. So, like, yeah, so I second what you said.
All right, perfect. All right, well, that kind of wraps up for everything in terms of, picturing out how the film's going to play out. Join us, in a future episode, and we're going to talk a little bit about the character arcs for the characters here in the second film adaptation for our proposed Knights of the Old Republic trilogy.
And you can find us on Instagram at Ebon Hawk Podcast.
And if you want to connect with me, I can be found on Instagram at astro_droid_. On Patreon, the link is in our Instagram bio, or you can find it at www.patreon.com/Ebon Hawk Podcast. The Ebon Hawk can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, as well as everywhere else that Anchor podcasts are distributed. Subscriptions, reviews, and shares help us out.
Our intro and outro themes were composed by Alistair Shorman at alistairsounds.wixsite.com/Alistair Sounds. Our transition music was composed by Christian Walker at christianwalkermusic.com. This episode of the Ebon Hawk Podcast has been brought to you by Nikki Dog from Patreon. May the Force be with you. We will be back soon. Bye for now.